Denis Cimaf, how it's made. Denis Cimaf's founder, Denis, was a pioneer in the unique design of cutting-head technology that transforms skid steers and excavators into brush and land-clearing machines. This entrepreneurial spirit, innovation, and pride in its industry-leading mulching attachments led to Mormark's acquisition of the company in 2018. With ever-increasing market demand for the DAF and DAH attachments, manufacturing was transferred to our Worcester, Ohio facility, clearing the way to meet current and future growth. It all begins with our precision CNC machines, measuring and cutting pieces of steel into the parts that will be used to form a Denis Cimaf mulching head. In the meantime, work has already begun on the rotor, where robotic welders are installing tooth holders onto the round rotor tube. The tooth holders are what allow the cutting teeth to be mounted to the rotor tube. They are tacked where they are loaded onto the rotor by the robot and then welded in place. Rotor rakers are then fixtured, tacked, and welded onto the rotor. Rotor rakers are the limiting ring details that allow the controlled depth cut of tree material. The number of rakers varies depending on the size of the model, and the total length of the rotor is measured precisely to ensure the spacing is accurate. The rotor then moves on to its first balance. Balancing the rotor ensures it is not spinning off balance or any of the parts are loose in any way. The rotor may need to have additional steel welded on to add weight in places where it is off balance. Advanced technology pinpoints exactly where the rotor needs to be balanced before moving on to the next step. The frame of the head is now being tack welded together. Engineered fixtures in our facility control the fitment of parts in key areas, which leads to better fitment of other parts that will be added to the head down the line. Quick clamps allow the heads to be quickly loaded and unloaded as they prepare to move to the next step. Once passing a quality check, the frame is ready to move on to the robotic welders. The robotic welding process is completed using gas metal arc welding, a type of weld that produces less spatter than traditional constant voltage welding. The robotic welder is able to complete a unit 30% faster with excellent bead profile results. Once welded together, the frame and rotor will move on to be painted. The parts are electromagnetically charged before heading into the paint booth, where the powder coat is then applied. In addition to increased durability, powder coat provides a smooth, even finish that automatically self-levels as the powder meets the charged surface of each part. After leaving the paint booth, it's time for all of the parts to come together in the assembly area. The frame is attached to the rotor by carefully guiding the rotor assembly into the shell with an overhead crane, then sliding the bearing carrier assemblies onto the rotor shaft and bolting the assemblies to the frame with high-strength bolts. The mowers then go to another area where the drive motors are installed along with the high-pressure hydraulic hoses. After assembly, units are then quality checked for fitment, finish details, and performance. Every Denis Cimaf head then goes through one final high-speed balance, reaching the revolutions per minute they will perform at when they're out in the field. After the final balance, they will return to the assembly area for final installation of the tree catcher, decals, covers, etc. Once it is balanced and approved, it's off to shipping to get wrapped up and ready to be sent out to our dealers and customers. Included with the purchase of every Denis Cimaf unit is transport pallet or stand, Denis Cimaf startup and warranty form, manuals for parts, service, and operation, end-user documents, and a customer kit that includes extra replacement hardware, grinding discs, service tools to maintain your mower, a complete set of extra teeth and hardware, and more. Once out in the field, your servicing Denis Cimaf dealer will work with you to schedule a Denis Cimaf technician to arrive on site to perform a startup and properly tune the mower for its mounted application. After the final inspection and tune-up, your Denis Cimaf is now ready to clear the way.
John Baylog, the Director of Sales for the Forestry Division at Rayco and Denis Cimaf. And today we're going to be talking about when to use sharp knives with a depth control rotor versus carbide teeth and open face rotor. So the difference between a depth control rotor with sharp knives and a true open face carbide head is when you're taking down a tree, imagine like a axe cutting the tree down versus a sledgehammer, right? The axe takes off a small piece of material where the sledgehammer just with blunt force destroys the wood. So when choosing a depth control rotor versus an open face rotor, a couple things you want to think about is the terrain. What kind of soil is going to be there? Is it going to be rocks or is it going to be sand and dirt? Also, what type of maintenance you're going to be expected to do to it, as far as what you're going to have to maintain it with sharpening it versus flipping the carbide. So for the depth control rotor with the sharp knives, typically you would do well in regular dirt soil, sand, or clay. The open face carbide would pretty much any conditions. It handles any condition except for metal and any other grindables that you encounter. So some of the advantage of using an open face carbide is the maintenance. Typically you can get about 150 hours per side before you flip the tooth, and there's no sharpening. Carbide tooth is mostly maintenance free and can handle impacts of larger ungrindable objects such as stone. So the sharp knife is a more efficient cutting methodology. Think about it, just that same analogy with the axe and sledgehammer. The amount of material it takes off is much quicker. There are smaller pieces that come out of there. It's less abuse on the carrier. Think about that. It's a smoother, more efficient. You use less fuel. The sharp knife is a sharp knife, so it requires regular maintenance. Typically every 5 hours. I would say at lunchtime, touch them up, and at the end of the day, touch them up. And that's with a pretty aggressive grinding disc. And basically takes a couple minutes, a tooth at maximum, and typically 20 minutes you're done with your head and you can go back to work. The depth control rotor has a faster rotor speed than typically an open-faced rotor. Typically around 2,500 RPMs, which allows you more control and less likely to stall the head. An open-face carbide spins around 2,000 RPMs, so you have to be more careful when grinding up material that you don't stall the head.